The Axeman of New Orleans, a tale of mystery and terror. Welcome to Whispers After Dark, the place where eerie tales come to life. The story you're about to hear takes place in the early 1900s, a time of intrigue and mystery in the heart of New Orleans, Louisiana. It's the tale of a killer who slipped through the shadows, haunting the city's streets and leaving behind a trail of terror. This is the story of the Axeman of New Orleans, a name that still chills the bones of those who know it. But first, hit that like button and subscribe. Tap the notification button so you won't miss a single episode. Now let's get on with our story. In the spring of 1918, a brutal crime spree began that would paralyze the city with fear. At night, in the still of the dark, the Axeman would strike, leaving bloodshed and horror in his wake. The killer's weapon of choice was a simple axe, but his signature left an unsettling mark on New Orleans residents. The first of these terrifying murders occurred on May 23, 1918, when a couple named Joseph and Catherine Maggio were found hacked to death in their home, their skulls crushed and their bodies mutilated. But it didn't stop there. Over the following months, more families fell victim to the Axeman. Each attack became more brazen, with no clear pattern, yet one thing remained the same: the killer's chilling methods. No one knew who the Axeman was or what drove him, but one thing was clear: he had turned New Orleans into his personal hunting ground. As the victims' families mourned and the city grew more fearful, a letter arrived, one that would add another layer of mystery to the enigma of the Axeman. Who was behind these horrific acts? Was it madness, revenge, or something more sinister at play? The nightmare began on the evening of May 23, 1918. Joseph and Catherine Maggio, an Italian-American couple living in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans, were quietly going about their evening, unaware that death was watching from the shadows. Their home, located above their small grocery store, was supposed to be a place of comfort. But that night, it became a scene of unspeakable horror. As the clock struck midnight, the Axeman, unseen and unheard, slipped into their home. He wielded a heavy axe, using it to smash through their skulls with brutal force. The couple was found the next morning by relatives, their bodies left in a gruesome display. The police arrived quickly, but there were few clues. The weapon, a bloodied axe, had been left behind, as if to taunt investigators. A razor, later traced to a local barber, was also found at the scene. Yet no fingerprints, no footprints, nothing led to the identity of the monster who had done this. There was no sign of a struggle. The door to their home had been left unlocked and their belongings undisturbed. It was as if the killer had simply walked in, familiar, almost as if he knew his victims. What made this case so strange was the lack of clear motive. There was no robbery, no forced entry, just the savage killings of two innocent people. Police could find no clue to lead them to the identity of the killer, and it appeared the Axeman had vanished as quickly as he arrived. In the following weeks, fear began to grip New Orleans like a tightening vice. The city had just experienced its first murder by the Axeman, but it would not be the last. The killer had shown no remorse, and his violence was only just beginning. Over the next few months, similar murders would follow, each one chillingly similar to the last. It was as though the killer had a method, a macabre ritual he was following. Each crime involved a couple. Victims were almost always Italian grocers. Each scene featured the same horrifying weapon, an axe. In some cases, the Axeman would also leave behind a telltale mark, an open window. The killer seemed to prefer entering his victims' homes through unlocked doors or windows, always sneaking in when they least expected it. On June 27, 1918, another Italian grocer, Louis Basumer, and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were found clinging to life in their shop. Their skulls had been fractured by an axe, yet somehow they survived. Harriet, however, would later succumb to her injuries, and in her final moments, she claimed Basumer himself was the attacker. The police, desperate for answers, arrested him, but the killings continued, proving he was not the Axeman. By July, the Axeman's spree had claimed several more victims, including the brutal murders of a family, the Andre family, and the more infamous attack on the Cortimiglia family. In each case, the violence was swift, merciless, and mysterious. No one knew how he chose his victims, and the fear only grew. As the months passed, the fear intensified. By August, another attack shook the city. Anna Schneider, a pregnant woman, was found brutally wounded in her bedroom, her face smashed beyond recognition. Miraculously, she survived and even gave birth to a healthy child weeks later. But still, the Axeman remained free, an unstoppable force that terrorized the city. By 1919, the terror reached its peak. More families were slaughtered. The randomness of the killings left no one feeling safe. Was he a madman, a spirit, a killer hiding in plain sight? No one knew. But soon, the Axeman himself would speak, sending a message that would forever haunt the streets of New Orleans. In the midst of the terror, a mysterious letter appeared that would send a shiver down the spines of everyone in New Orleans. The letter, which was sent to the New Orleans Times-Picayune newspaper on March 13, 1919, contained a chilling message. It was written by the Axeman himself, and in it, he revealed his next plan, to kill again. The letter read in part, "I am very fond of jazz music. I swear to God that I will pass over New Orleans if a jazz band plays at least one song in any given bar. The night will be the night of my last attack if you heed my demand." This bizarre demand led to a wave of uncertainty throughout the city. Bars and clubs responded by playing jazz music, hoping to appease the killer. For a time, there was a brief sense of calm, but it wouldn't last long. Despite the music, the killings resumed. It was as if the Axeman was taunting the city, mocking their fear. Despite the ominous letter, the Axeman's reign of terror eventually came to an end, though no one knows exactly why. After a final attack in October 1919, the killings suddenly stopped. The city was left in confusion, and the killer seemed to vanish without a trace. Theories abound as to why the Axeman stopped. Some believe that he was killed or imprisoned, while others think he simply grew tired of his murderous spree. What is certain is that the killer was never caught, and the mystery remains unsolved to this day. The city of New Orleans slowly returned to normal, but the memory of the Axeman lingered in the minds of those who lived through it. To this day, the identity of the Axeman remains one of New Orleans' most infamous mysteries. Many theories have been proposed about who he might have been. Some suggest that he was a serial killer, a lone man driven by madness or vengeance. Others believe the killings were the work of a group of people, or perhaps even a copycat killer inspired by earlier murders. One popular theory points to a man named James S. DeWitt, a New Orleans resident with a troubled past. However, there is no concrete evidence linking him to the crimes, and many of the theories remain speculative at best. Despite the lack of closure, the Axeman's legacy has endured. He remains one of the most terrifying figures in the city's history, and his story continues to fascinate and horrify those who are brave enough to delve into the dark heart of New Orleans. Although the murders stopped more than a century ago, the legend of the Axeman still echoes through New Orleans. His terror left a permanent mark on the city, and his story has been passed down through the generations. Today, the tale of the Axeman is still told, both as a cautionary tale and as a piece of history that continues to captivate. Was the Axeman a man driven by madness? A ghostly figure who walked the streets of New Orleans in the dead of night? Or perhaps he was something far darker than any of us could imagine, a mystery that remains, a question unanswered. One thing is certain, the Axeman of New Orleans will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed the story, then smash that like button and subscribe to help us grow our channel. If there is a story or historical mystery you would like us to consider, please leave it down below in the comment section. Please leave us a comment and tell us where you are from. We would love to hear from you. You can also drop us an email. We will do our best to respond. It is listed in the details below.